What's up out there to all of my fellow gold diggers? This is your girl Rita, also known as the self-proclaimed gold digger. If this is your first time to my channel, welcome. I am so glad to have you. But if you are a fellow gold digger, welcome back. Y'all know I love and appreciate each and every one of you. If this is your first time tuning in, we are doing Tipsy Tuesday. Tonight's topics, we are going to be talking about how to pay off debt, getting out of debt, as well as we're going to touch a little bit on credit. I know we've covered credit a few times, so I'm not going to go into depth a whole lot with that. Real quick though, let me just check my social media panels and make sure we are good on all of them real quick. And then we are going to go ahead and get into today's topic. You make sure, because I was having some issues. With a couple of things earlier today. So hopefully that's good. All right. And let me check one other spot and make sure we're good. And then we are going to get started. All right. We are good there as well. All right. So what's up? Mumsy Ed says, hello. Good to see you. And that he is tuning in. I'm assuming this is a guy. April, what's up, April? Good to see you. Back also, y'all. I have a whole bunch of notes, but I'm not going into everything on today. But if you are new to Tipsy Tuesday, basically what we do is we take some sips as I share some tips. So tonight, I'm still drinking on water, y'all, because I'm still trying to be all nice and healthy. I told y'all on last week that we had started reading the book, or I had started reading the book, Get Good with Money, and we were talking about how you can get good with your money. Last week's topic, we were talking about budgeting and saving. This week's topic, we are going to be talking about how to get out of debt, as well as a little bit about credit. I think y'all heard enough about credit, but there were a couple of things that I did take away from the book that I wanted to make sure I mentioned to y'all. Also, I don't have the actual hard copy book of Get Good with Money because I listened to it on Audible, but I did order the little workbook. So I haven't really had a chance to look at the topics that they had in the workbook, but she asked some really helpful questions. So if you are reading the book, if you are reading along with me, or you were thinking about getting the book, I also would suggest getting the workbook because it's asking you different questions to kind of go a little bit deeper into your money goals, and helping you to get to what she calls, and this is by Tiffany the Budgetista or Tiffany Aliche, but for you to get to what she calls financial wholeness. So that is the ultimate goal of that. Now, also on last week, I had a couple of church announcements and everything. And that was that in order to help us get good with our money, I had a giveaway where I was giving away $100 gift card to someone. And all you had to do was put in your money affirmations. We went over some money affirmations on last week. So and y'all have shared, the ones who have entered into the drawing have shared your money affirmations. All of y'all had great money affirmations. I hope y'all are saying them every day so that you are manifesting money as well as good finances in your life. So the giveaway, we are going to do that at the end. So you got to stay tuned to the end to see if you win. Also, please note, you have to be in the US because I am going to be sending the gift card to you, mailing it to you. Don't ask me for the PIN number, the card number, all that kind of stuff. No, it's going to be mailed to you directly. So if you don't have an address in the US, then you might be eliminated because I can't send it. I'm not sending it to any foreign countries because of all the extra postage and stuff like that. So, but it will be mailed to whoever the winner is going to be on tonight. All right. So let's go ahead and get into it when it comes to tonight's topic, because I do not want to be on long. I see I have some comments coming in, and I'm going to put those on the screen real quick, and then we are going to jump into it. Blythe May says, hi, hon. Good to see you. I know you entered into the drawing. And she also says, nice book. Yes, be sure to check it out. This is just the workbook. She has an actual book that goes into more depth that we are reading, but also get the workbook. Still Rocks, he says, we in here. Yo, yo, yo. What's up, Still Rocks? Always good to see you. And then, so you're drinking on Mountain Dew. Now, I love me a Mountain Dew. Baja Blast, zero sugar. I haven't tried the Baja Blast. I just get the regular. Well, I've been cutting back on soda, so I haven't even had a Mountain Dew. Probably, I don't know. It's probably been at least a month since I had a Mountain Dew. But, so I'm trying to cut back on the sodas and stuff like that. But anyway, all right. So let's get into tonight's topic and get started. So chapter 4 was the topic for that, and the Get Good with Money was digging out of debt. Now, one of the big things that I took away from this chapter is that, and I forgot that she had said this when I originally read the book, is that debt is not a place. So we keep saying that we're going to get out of debt. She said, change your language when it comes to debt, because debt is not a place that you are in or whatever. Saying, you say more something along the lines of like, I'm paying off a debt, or I owe a debt and I'm paying off the debt and whatever. So once again, it's all about switching our money mindset as well as our money language when it comes to debt. Now, I will say this. Y'all may or may not have seen my video where I talk about my debt. I have a whole lot of, I had a whole lot of student loan debt in general. Once I graduated from school, y'all, I had $250,000 in debt. It was crazy. And now it's getting better. I still got a good ways to go. It's still, 6 figures worth of debt. I'll be glad when it's under 6 figures of debt. It's getting close, but it's not quite there. I'll be so happy and excited about that. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And like I said, I need to stop saying I'm getting out of debt. I'm paying off my debt is what I'm doing. I'm paying off my debt. So I'll be so excited when I have paid off my debt. Now, the other thing she says is just because you pay off your debt, that does not equal wealth, because you could be debt free, but you don't have anything. She used the example like you don't have anything in savings. And she used an example of, her nephew, I believe, or her niece. I can't remember, her niece or her nephew, who's like, 6 or 7 or something like that. Someone who is a child, like they are debt free, but that does not mean that they're wealthy. So they are debt free because they don't have anything that they owe. So we have to keep that same mindset. Even once we pay off the debt, even though we might be debt free, that doesn't necessarily translate into us being wealthy. It's a step to help us get to being wealthy, because now that we paid off our debts, now we can start focusing our money more on investing more and saving more. But just because you pay off the debt, it does not equal wealth. Okay. So be mindful about that. And I wanted to mention, because I got this, y'all, it's a lot going on. Like most of my debt is student loan debt. Now I do have mortgage debt and that kind of thing. And even that, we're getting closer to being able to pay that off as well. So my biggest debts are student loan, the mortgage, and then I also have a business loan, and that'll be paid off soon as well. Now I will say that one is under 6 figures. Thank God for that. But so those are my biggest debts. But y'all, please, this is an aside or a side note or whatever. Please be careful when it comes to your student loans. We're going to talk more about the student loans when we cover the debt. But y'all, I literally got an email today of someone who is trying to like pretend like they sent me an email saying you possibly qualify, or you qualify for loan forgiveness. Give us a call at such and such number, that kind of thing. It's a scam, y'all. It's a scam. So be careful about that, because I know the topic of loan forgiveness is really, really big right now. And people are trying to see how can they qualify for loan forgiveness? How can they get their debt paid? There's stuff coming out of, the White House where they're trying to pass laws and pass legislation for us to have some of our student loan debt forgiven. So just be careful, y'all. The scammers are out here. The scammers are out here, and they're trying to take advantage of you at a vulnerable point where you're looking to try and find a way to get some more financial stability or get more financial freedom, and they will take advantage of you by pretending like they can help you, like you qualify for loan forgiveness. So just be mindful of that. So I thought it was strange because I know I'm like, I really shouldn't qualify for no loan forgiveness or whatever. And just in the email, let me see if I can actually pull the email up real quick for y'all. It was actually worded pretty good. Because sometimes those little scamming emails come through and they are not worded like they're supposed to, or it just looks crazy. Like the person's name wasn't anything crazy. It was just, it says, hello, this is such and such on behalf of the student loan debt department, whatever department that is. We tried to contact you at your home, and they actually had my daggone address, my correct address, and did not hear back. Your student loans have been marked as eligible for forgiveness under the new 2024 guidelines. Your case number is such and such, and your file will remain open in my system for only one more day. So they trying to create this sense of urgency. If you could please give your dedicated eligibility line a call at such and such number, our office hours are whatever. Thank you so much, and we hope to hear from you soon. All right, so I don't know who sold my information on the internet, but anyway, and so there's a couple little typographical things that might set you off, but it just didn't seem right. I'm like, I know I'm not eligible for loan forgiveness. So then when I look at the email, that was a giveaway. It's a Hotmail email address. The student loan debt department got a Hotmail address. Okay, but anyway, y'all, just be careful. Be very, very careful of the scammers who are trying to take advantage of you and take advantage of you trying to pay off your debt. Same thing applies to some of these debt payoff programs, or they'll say you pay them and they pay off your debts. A lot of times, well, I won't say a lot of times, but from sometimes that I'm hearing is they are taking your money and they are not applying it to those debts that you consolidated with them. So just be very, very mindful and be very, very careful about people who are trying to get over on you when you're trying to get yourself in a better financial situation. Okay. All right. Let's see. Let me look at these real quick. April says, just because you got a Gucci wallet doesn't mean you got money in it. So true. So true. So true. And Kim, what's up? She says, hello, everybody. And then April says it was most likely worded by ChatGPT. It probably was. And April also says it's called a call to action email. They are using sales tactics. Yes, they're trying to create that sense of only one more day. Shoot, them loans been around for I don't know how long. Whatever. I don't care. But I was like, this don't sound right. But anyway, all right. So let's get into tonight's topic about getting out of debt. So the first thing, one of the first things she suggests that you do is similar to when we talked about creating your budget. You want to identify your debts by making a list of the debts that you have, how much you owe for the debts, and write down the minimum amounts that are due. So if you created your budget, I don't know how many of y'all actually went out and created y'all budget last week. I would be curious to know. I'm laughing, but we need to get serious. How many of y'all went out and created y'all budget? If you did what we suggested last week, you would have all of this information right here. So you're going to make a list of all of your debts, what you owe, like your loans and things of that nature, your mortgage, car loans, student loans, whatever. Make a list of the debts that you owe. Write down the total amount. And she means for my student loan, what is the grand amount that I owe? All right. Not just what I pay or whatever, because later on you're going to write down what the minimum payment is. And then she also suggested also to write down your APR, which is a little bit different than the interest and everything like that. So once you have that listed out, you will know what you actually owe when it comes to your debts. Now, since I was talking about the scammers, she also talked about the debt collectors and kind of what to do when debt collectors are calling you and stuff like that. So if you have people who are calling you, the key takeaway that I took from this is that you can opt out of them calling you, which I didn't know and I didn't remember. Maybe I wasn't paying attention the first time I read the book. You can opt out of them calling you and tell them that you only want to be communicated to by mail. So I didn't know that. I thought if you owed a debt that they could call you. I won't say whenever they want. I know there was like certain times that they could call, and like they couldn't call you too early in the morning. They couldn't call you like after a certain time in the evening and stuff like that. So I was aware of that, but I didn't know that you could actually opt out of them even contacting you by phone. So be mindful of that. If you're tired of being harassed, if you have a debt and you're tired of being harassed at home, at work, or whatever, there is a way for you to get out of it and be able to just tell them, hey, I only want you to communicate to me through the mail and everything. Now, also, she says, if you do talk to them on the phone, please be mindful of the fact that the conversation is being recorded. And they usually will tell you that in the beginning, like this conversation is being recorded or this phone call is being recorded. So you want to be careful with what you say. She says, do not ever admit to owing a debt. She says you would want to ask them to show proof that you owe the debt. So just be mindful of that when you're talking to the debt collectors. Watch your mouth, watch what you say. Don't admit to anything. Ask for them to prove that you actually owe the debt before you say anything. She also says, make sure when you talk to them, and she said you can talk to them like on your terms or whatever. So just because they call you at, 12 o'clock in the afternoon and you on your lunch break or whatever, or you're wrapping up about to head on your lunch break, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to talk to them then. You can like I said, you can opt out of even talking to them, or you can say, hey, you need to call me back at such and such time, which is more convenient, or I will call you back at this particular time. So when you talk to them, you want to be organized, have all your information available. So you can ask the necessary questions and have your questions that you do want to ask them written out and everything. The other thing she mentions too is find out your state statute of limitations when it comes to how long it is for someone to collect a debt, especially the credit card debts, because most states have I won't say most states, all states have a statute of limitations of how long a creditor, specifically the credit card company, can come after you if you did not pay your credit card debt. Okay. And you want to be careful. That's why she also said you want to be careful about what you say. And if you're talking to them, what they're trying to get you to do on the phone is they're trying to get you to commit to making a payment. So if you have credit card debt and it's past the statute of limitations, but you're talking to them and you agree to make a payment on it, guess what? You have just reactivated the debt. It's called, like, once it's past the statute of limitations, it's called zombie debt, meaning like it's dead debt. Like you don't have to pay it because it's past the statute of limitations. But if you make a payment or agree to make a payment and it's beyond that statute, you just reactivated that old debt. And now it's like the time starts ticking again. So just be careful when you're talking to them. You want to be strategic. You want to make sure that you're educated when you're speaking to those people, because this keep in mind, this is their job. They do this day in, day out. They probably talk to, dozens of people throughout the day. So they know what to say to get you to say certain things, to get you to do certain things. So you just have to be just as vigilant when it comes to you and making sure you say the right stuff as well. Okay. I think that was it. Oh, the last thing I want to mention is if it is zombie debt and they're contacting you about it, you can also send them a cease and desist letter, which will tell them, stop calling me or contacting me, period, because this debt is old. And then if you actually have the book, I want to say there's like a PDF that's accompanying the regular book, Get Good with Money. And it has like sample letters and templates in there for you to know what to say and what to put in your letter when it comes to those things. All right. So That was the first tip that she had when it comes to your debt. She said you want to identify your debt that you have, and that was when we talked about listing it out. Then the next thing you want to do is restructure your debt, and see. And basically, what that just means is seeing how you might can renegotiate either like the interest rate, what the minimum payment amount is, seeing if you can create a little bit of wiggle room when it comes to your payments. So she used three different types of debt, I want to say. It was, yes, she mentioned credit card debt, your student loan debt, and your mortgage debt, and the things that you can do when it comes to that. Let me take a sip because I've been talking. Excuse me, y'all. All right. And I see I have some comments. Hold up. All right. So let's see. Before we get into the three types of debt and how, or the three types of debt that she mentioned and how you can possibly restructure it. April says they actually sell your debt to another creditor when the time frame is almost up, and then the debt clock began again with someone else. It won't affect your credit score, but they still can sue you. Yes, that is true. Now, April, a lot of times though, depending on the company they sold it to, you still want to have them to produce proof that you owe the debt. Because if they cannot produce any proof, like with the original company, and show all the different I won't say statements, but just show proof that, hey, this was the amount that was owed and that kind of thing, then you still don't have to pay it. So that's why she mentioned about showing proof. So if the company that bought it cannot show that you actually owe it and cannot produce statements and stuff like that, because a lot of times, I won't say a lot of times, but sometimes those companies who are selling off debt, they might not have accurate records because they've already written it off and everything on their taxes. Like, they already catching a break. But yes, it can possibly start again, especially if you admit to owing it. So just be careful when those people, even when the new people contact you, you want to say, hey, can you show me proof that I do in fact owe this particular debt? Cynthia says, what's up, Cynthia? She says, hi, Rita and the Gold Digger family. Good to see you. And April says, and get your bank account levy. We don't want that. But yes, we don't want that. They can now, I will say this, it's usually it's a process. So just, you're going to be going through a process. So just be careful. And a lot of times too, they'll do that as it gets closer to the time for it to, like, the statute of limitations kind of is up. And Cynthia says, like and share. Thank you, Cynthia, for always doing that. And then April's just telling her hello. Let me see. Hold on. This thing is acting up. Y'all, I have had so much trouble with technology today. All right. Nancy, is this Nancy who usually who joined probably when I was doing mystery shopping? If so, it's good to see you again. She says, to pay down debt, I called the credit card company and asked for a hardship program. They reduced the APR to 0%, and minimum payments went down from $100 a month to $50 a month. That is good. That is also a good tip. Thank you, Nancy, for sharing. Yes, and depending on how much you owe or how long you've been with the company too, they might be more inclined to do that because they want their money some kind of way. And then Nancy says, my credit card will be closed after it's paid off. Not sure how this will affect me in the future, but it was the best option since I was only making the minimum payment. Yes. So Nancy, in regards to that, we talked about that when we went over the credit. And I might mention again, because we're supposed to be talking briefly about credit again tonight. So depending on how long you've had that credit card and what the credit utilization was, like how much they would allow you to borrow, it probably will affect your credit score. So if it's a long-term credit card, your score is, like, if you've had it, several years, your score is probably going to drop when that card is closed, just because we talked about how your credit history is an average. So if you have a credit card that is 10 years old and you have a credit card that is 5 years old, Together, they are, your credit history is 15. And if we divide that by 2, that puts us at what? 7.5. So your credit history is 7.5. So if you close that credit card that was 10 years old, now it cuts your credit history down to 5 years or whatever. So it does affect it. Also, depending on the limit of it, if it was like a $10,000 credit card and the other credit cards you had, I don't know, let's say that one was $5,000, your credit utilization is going to drop from that 15,000 down to that 5,000. And depending on how much of that 5,000 you're using per month, it can definitely affect your credit. And also too, when we were talking about credit, sometimes we talked about like not closing credit cards or not closing them too soon. But I didn't mention, like, sometimes if you are behind or something like that, and you can't pay. Now, Nancy got a credit, got into a program, but if you can't pay, you might want to go ahead and close the card so that those late payments or missed payments are not reflected on your credit report and affecting your credit score. Because we talked about, it takes, if you have one missed payment on your credit report, it takes 11 on-time payments to make up for that one missed payment. So just be mindful of that too. April says, yes, show me the proof, because I don't even I don't even shop there. Now make sure that's true, because they recorded the conversation. All right, Cynthia says, I never communicate with anyone that buys an old debt. Only deal with the original debtor. I learned the hard way when I was younger. Yes. And like I said, oftentimes the new person has limited information. And when it comes to that too, I will say this. Usually when they sell that debt, because the original creditor has already written it off. So let's say you owe $10,000 and, you haven't paid or whatever, they're writing off $10,000 on their taxes. So they're getting a break or whatever. Now, the person who bought it, they didn't buy it for $10,000. Oftentimes they probably bought it for like $3,000. So even if you do talk to that second person or the second debt collector who bought the debt, try not to pay that whole $10,000, because they did not pay $10,000 for it. Usually they're paying around, like, I want to say it's like 25 to 30% of what the original debt is. So if they're trying to collect that full $10,000 amount, don't do it, because all of that is profit. And I say that because at one point in time, I was looking into that as a side hustle of buying old debt and calling people and trying to collect on it and everything. But I realized I did not want to be a debt collector or whatever, because that cannot be a pleasant job. But I did look into it. So y'all do not pay the full price, okay? Even though you owed or you charged $10,000 on your credit card, the person who bought it, they did not pay that much for it. And just keep in mind too, if it's been through, like, this is the third debt person who's bought it, who's gotten it, they definitely didn't pay $10,000 for it either. It's probably even less than that. Okay, so just remember that, y'all. There are things you can negotiate. And Cynthia saying, good tip, Nancy. April says, never cancel those long time use credit cards. Just use it like once a month to keep it active. Yes, so true. So it stays on your credit reports. And April says, my friend used to be a debt collector. She loved it. Ella, ooh, she must have liked getting cussed out, because I know. But anyway, I'm glad she enjoyed her job. Everybody is built for different things, and I know that's not something I was built for, even though I guess I could have hired somebody to do it or whatever, but it was looking lucrative. I was like, oh, okay, but yeah. So just so y'all know. All right, so let's talk about how you can restructure your debt. First things first, she talks about credit card debt, and Nancy, this was not in the book, but what Nancy suggested is a good way to do it as well. I think she's probably mentioned is so that you can keep your credit still open. But she says that you can negotiate a lower interest rate with the credit card company. So always ask them for that. And I found out, and I don't know if I talked about it when I was talking about credit, because y'all, like I said, I went down a little credit rabbit hole and stuff like that. But I think I did mention it. But every 3 to 6 months, you can ask for a credit increase as well. Okay, so be mindful of that. Now, the interest rate, I don't know how often you can ask for that, but definitely you can ask for a credit increase every 3 to 6 months. Now, we're trying to get out of debt, but it will definitely help like your credit utilization to look lower, which can also affect your credit score. She also mentioned that you can do a balance transfer. And oftentimes, if you do a balance transfer, you want to have it where it's like a 0% balance transfer. But the caveat with that is you want to try and pay off the balance transfer in whatever the promotional time period is. So if you do a balance transfer, if it's for 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, whatever they say it is, you want to try and pay off the balance that you transferred over during that time period. If for some reason you cannot, you want to see, are you going to be charged interest on that original amount that you transferred or just on the amount that you owed, so that you're not paying a whole lot of interest if you don't pay it off? Because some of the credit cards are set up that if you do not pay off that balance transfer by the end of that promotional period, you are charged interest from that full amount from the very first day where you did the balance transfer. Okay. And also, the other thing she mentioned is if you don't pay it off too, or even after you pay it off, you also want to find out what the interest rate is going to be after the promotional period of the balance transfer. The other thing she suggested, which is not a popular opinion with me, is to get a personal loan. She says if you do this, you want to look into credit unions for this, and you want to make sure you know what your credit score is, as well as the amount of money that you need. And another thing that she suggested as well is, like I said, the last two are not like my favorite, is you could do like a cash out refinance on your home if you own a home, or do a home equity loan. And then right now, and I guess this just depends on what the interest rates are. Right now, you might not want to do a cash out refinance because y'all know the mortgage rates are higher than they were, just back a couple of years ago. So it might not be better for you to refinance. And then the home equity line of credit, or the home equity loan, is just you're borrowing against your loan. And let's say you're just paying it off. And now that one is probably a better option because I won't say the payments are fixed, but the payments might be more feasible and everything for you. So just remember that. All right. Yeah, before I move on to the next one, let me get these before I be like, what were y'all talking about? Tashika Thomas, good to see you. Is it possible that the original creditor would refuse to speak with you? I am not sure. Oftentimes, yeah, I'm not sure. They might, if they've already sold the debt, because they pretty much have washed their hands of you or whatever. And you might even see it on your credit report. It's like a charge off. I forget the actual wording of it or whatever, but you can tell when they've written it off. It still shows up on your credit report. So they may or may not speak to you. Now, the other thing is, if they're not speaking to you, then I won't say that might be a good thing or whatever. That also shows they might not be worried about the debt, because, well, they're not worried about it because they done sold it off to someone. Oh, Lord. Still Rock says, I think you get numb to being cussed out after a while. I don't think I could take that day in and day out. I don't know. I might snap back. So I'm not going to have a job. Either I'm going to be stressed out, or I ain't going to have a job because I done went off on somebody. Nancy says, thank you guys for the feedback. Unfortunately, they are long-term credit cards, but I had to come to the realization that I had been in debt for so many years and I'm not responsible. Well, that is a big step too, Nancy. So that's okay. As long as you recognize, like, hey, I need to get rid of this so that I can move on to something better. And honestly, I'm wondering too what they're going to put on your credit report as well. So you might want to contact them and see how is it going to be displayed on your credit report and everything, because that might also affect your your score. Now, this is not my area of expertise when it comes to that, but I know the other credit person that I was following, she had suggested, like, sometimes if you know you're behind, just close the card or whatever, um, and let that negative thing from it being closed just be on there. And Ken says, don't you have to have good credit for the home equity loan? Yes, you have to have good credit for for all of these loans. Well, except for the credit card. Like if you're renegotiating or trying to do, well, even for the balance transfer, your credit score still has to be a certain point. So for all of these, especially the personal loan, especially if you're trying to work with a credit union, yeah, you got to have a good credit score. So yeah, that's why I said some of these they're not my favorite to do when it comes to like restructuring your credit card debt, but the options might be a little bit limited. And Tashika says, thank you. You are welcome. All right, so let's talk about student loan debt. So first thing she mentioned is you should not try to, she said you can refinance out of a federal student loan. You can, but you cannot refinance into a federal student loan. So just be mindful of that, because I know people are trying to get you to refinance. I know that was a big thing right around when 2020 was happening and the pandemic and everything, before we knew for sure what was going to happen. And even now, y'all see, we're just coming out of that student loan pause. But I know people who decided to refinance out of their federal loans into, a private loan and everything, because they thought the interest rate was better. They didn't know that this student loan freeze was going to be so long. The federal student loans, I won't say they're the best loans if you have a student loan, but they are backed by the government and everything. And so with those, you can qualify for a forbearance or a deferment. And some of these are really easy, like especially the forbearance is really easy to qualify for. It does not look at your credit score. Like Ken was asking, like, do you have to have a good credit score when it came to like the credit card debt? But with your student loans, you do not for federal student loans, I should say, you do not have to worry about your credit card. So that's why the federal student loans are, if you're going to have student loans, those are the best loans to have, since they are backed by the government and they give you a little bit more leniency. So much so, I didn't realize that you can have 9 missed payments before you're considered defaulting on the loan. Like that is almost a year. That you can, now it's not going to look good on your credit report for your credit score, but just know, like they give you 9 months before they say, oh, she defaulted on their loan or he defaulted on the loan. And then also with the federal student loans, there is loan forgiveness. Okay. Real quick, I'm going to touch upon mortgage debt, because we kind of talked about it a little bit when we talked about the refinance for the credit card debt or using a cash out refinance. When it comes to mortgage debt, you can try to refinance it, but like I said, right now the interest rates are a little bit too high, and sometimes some people will refinance it into a shorter mortgage, but usually if you do that, your monthly amount is going to be higher. So you just got to weigh the pros and the cons when it comes to that. All right. Now, what I really want to talk about is how you can pay off debt. And I'm going to mention this real quick and then I'll get the comments. So there are 2 main methods that are talked about. And I hear there's another method, but I got to look into that one. So the 2 main methods to pay off debt is the snowball method and the avalanche method. And we're going to talk about each of those so that you will know the difference and see which one might be beneficial to you. But real quick, let me see what April is saying. And go from there. All right, so April says, where are all those banks that would give balloon payment loans or super high interest loans? I always heard they will give a loan to anybody, no matter how bad the credit. Are you talking about student loans, April, or you're talking about personal loans? Because I think some of those, if you're talking about like personal loans or even like a mortgage loan, some of those, the leniency when it came to issuing out loans was more so before we had the housing crash in 2008. Like anybody could get a mortgage. Like you really didn't even, I think you didn't even really have to show like your credit score and all that kind of stuff. So they were handing out mortgages to people who really could not afford to pay for the mortgage. And I want to say ever since then, they have definitely gotten stricter, one on who gets a mortgage and stuff like that. And then also, I guess since we had to bail out the banks and things of that nature, just in general, overall, they tightened up on who can qualify for a loan and, the certain documentation when it comes to the loan so that the banks would not be in crisis like they were before. So I think that was more probably what now? 14, 15 years ago. It doesn't seem that long, but it's been it's been that long. April also says 9 months ain't long enough. Maybe it's taking someone longer to get their life together. That is before they will say that you defaulted on the loan, and that's only for the federal student loans. So hopefully, I think people don't act upon stuff because they're just not educated about it. Because usually when it comes to those federal student loans, you could get a deferment and you could keep getting like the deferments you can get. I forget. I want to say, I don't know if things have changed since I know a lot of legislation has come through regarding student loans. But I remember, I want to say you could get like 3 years worth of, not deferment, I'm sorry, 3 years worth of like forbearance. Or you could qualify for deferment. So let's say, like April was saying, like it might take somebody longer to get their life together. Like if you don't have a job or you haven't been able to find a job, you can get an unemployment deferment. And that I think you can like I said, I want to say it's like for up to 3 years. So this is just, they give you 9 months. If you are not giving them any communication, you're not making any payments or anything like that, they're giving you 9 months. But there's other options that you can explore, like a deferment or a forbearance. Now, the forbearance is easier to qualify for. You really don't have to show hardly any proof, and they'll issue you out a forbearance. And same thing for that, you can get a forbearance for up to 3 years. The difference, though, between the deferment and the forbearance, usually you want to try and get the deferment, because when you have that deferment, the federal government is still paying the interest on your loan. If you get the forbearance, even though it's really easy to get, you still are responsible for the interest, and the interest is still accumulating. So just keep that in mind. But there are options available. That 9 months is just like if you're not doing any type of communication, not trying to do any program. And I want to say, I remember when I first got out of school or whatever, and maybe it was, so I had to take some time off from school when I had my daughter. So I didn't have that little 6-month grace period that you're supposed to have once you finally graduate or whatever. And I remember that first payment came and I was not ready for it. And I remember they talked to me and they were like, hey, these are your options. And I believe ever since then, since they've gotten stricter with like the student loans and everything, they probably have implemented even more stuff about them educating people about what their options are when it comes to the student loans. But I remember them saying, hey, you can do this or you can do that. Now, every loan servicer might not be that good. And I know some of them have gotten in trouble because they were not telling people about their options that they can do. And then April saying, yes, personal loans. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I want to say, just like I was mentioning, things have probably just tightened up since the 2008 recession. April says, then we need those days back. I don't know. April calls that big old recession. So, and those homes were for foreclosing and stuff like that. All right. But let's get into the two different methods. So we have the snowball method and then the avalanche method. The snowball method is pretty popular. It's been popularized by Dave Ramsey. It's probably as well as other probably financial gurus and stuff. It is a good method, okay? And basically that method is you would list all your debts, and with the payment, the monthly payment that you would make from smallest to largest. So this is based off of the monthly payment. And you would take that smallest monthly payment and you would pay it off. You would still pay the minimum payments on all your other debts. And any extra money you had, you would put to that smallest payment. So let's say your smallest payment was $50. That's now you got you got 5 other bills you got to pay too, or debts you have to pay. But that smallest amount was $50, and you have an extra $50 a month to contribute to it. So instead of just paying $50, you would be paying $100 until you pay that debt off. And once it's paid off, you would take that $100 that you were paying to that smallest debt and then apply it to your next smallest debt. So let's say the next one was $75. And so now you're paying, instead of just paying the minimum payment of $75, you're paying $175. So it keeps adding on, and building upon itself like a snowball would if you were just packing up the snow on the snowball. Okay. So that's what the snowball method is. You list your debts from smallest to largest of the monthly payment. You still make the minimum payments on all of them, but you apply any extra money you have to that smallest payment. And the key thing is, once you pay off that smallest amount that you owe, you just take what you were already paying and apply it to the next smallest. So that's the key thing. You can't just say stop or whatever, or only pay a portion or start using part of the money for something else. You want to just keep adding to it. So that is the snowball method. Now, she does mention when you make any extra payments, you want to make sure it's being applied to the principal of the loan. That is really, really key. I remember when I had my car loan, and it's been a while since I've had a car loan, but I remember, and even with my student loans, they did this too. When I would make an extra payment on there, they would just say, oh, you don't owe anything until, 2 months from now or something like that, or 3 months from now, depending on how much extra I owed. And sometimes I would ride off of that and be like, okay, good, I don't have to make this payment or whatever. And that's because they were applying it to my future payments. They weren't really applying it to the principal. They were just saying, hey, you don't have to make any payments until such and such date. So I know they did this with my car loan when I had it, and they also did it with my student loans. You have to specifically say, I want this extra amount applied to the principal, because sometimes they will apply it to your next month's payment. Sometimes they will apply it to the interest. They don't apply it necessarily to the principal. And I know with the student loans, you can go in there, and it might depend on your servicer, but you can go in there and say, hey, I want this extra amount applied to the principal. Now, it's been too long with the car loan. I don't know if I could do that. And back then I was a little young and dumb. So when they told me I had to pay for 2 and 3 months, I was like, cool, that's good enough for me. But if I would have done it differently before. So just make sure when you pay the extra, it's actually being applied to what you want. Because when they just do it that way, and you say, if you would have did like me with that car loan, been like, hey, I don't have to pay, it's not expediting anything. Like it's still that same time frame. So say you're supposed to pay it off in 3 years or something like that. You're still going to pay it off in 3 years, because they're just saying, hey, you don't have to make your next payment until, October or whatever. So the whole idea is for you to get out of debt as quickly as possible. So you got to make sure it's getting applied to the principal and everything. The other method is the avalanche method. Now, let me tell you the benefit about the snowball method. The reason why a lot of people like to use the snowball method is because you get a quick win. So usually your smallest payment, hopefully you'll pay it off really. Hopefully it's a small loan or a small debt. So you'll get some payoff really quickly, like within a few months or a matter of months or something like that. And so you'll get that little high or that rush or that excitement from paying it off, that you'll want to keep doing it. So it helps you get some momentum, get you some excitement about paying off the debt. Now, the avalanche method, this one is different. This is where you're paying off your highest interest rate loan first, and then you're putting them in order. You're putting your debts in order based off of the one that has the highest interest rate down to the one that has the lowest interest rate. And so then you would just pay off the highest interest rate. And the psychology behind that is that you're going to save money because you're paying off the one that is charging you the most interest first. Now, with this one, it could just take a while depending on how big it is. I don't know. It could be a credit card debt though, where you're being charged 30%, 29.999% interest, and all you owe is $1,000 or whatever. And so you might still get a quick win because you're paying off that high interest rate versus your student loans, which are down at 4-6% or something like that. But that student loan will take a while. But anyway, I digress. But so some people don't always advocate for the avalanche method because they assume that the high interest rate that you're paying off is usually a larger amount loan or a bigger loan. So it just takes you longer to get the wins. But you could have a loan that's a small amount and it just has a high interest rate. And if so, you're going to save money on the long run and you're going to get a quick win. So that is the avalanche method. And with that, you're still applying any extra money you have to that high interest loan. Then when you go down to the next one, you're still just rolling the payments together, like a snowball going down the avalanche. Okay. It's one, we going up, the other one we going down. So you're still adding to it. So just be mindful of that. All right. So that was the snowball method and the avalanche method. We're going to real quickly, because y'all, I feel like I talked about credit so much, but we're going to real quickly talk about credit, and then we're going to wrap it on up. All right, let me see these comments. And Still Rock says, man, I hate when that happens. Yes, you have to be specific. A lot of websites now will have radio buttons for you to choose principal or next installment. Yes, so true. But yeah, I definitely would advocate for the principal just because you're getting it paid off quicker and everything. Unless you just know, hey, I need a couple of months of breathing room or something. And then Ankin says, I never heard of the avalanche one. Yeah, everybody talks about the snowball method. Just because, and also too, they're assuming that your smallest amount is a small loan. But you could have a small amount. Let's say you're paying $200 a month and it's a $20,000 loan. It's going to take a while for it. And the same thing with the avalanche method. They're assuming that if it's a high interest rate, it's because it's a big loan. So I just say pick which one you think is going to work for you. But there is psychology behind you getting that quick win that keeps you motivated and keeps you wanting to keep going and everything. So you could possibly get the quick win with the snowball method, but you can also possibly get the quick win with the avalanche method as well. And then Still Rock says avalanche is great overall. For the average person, I like the snowball so they will get momentum when they see movement in their financial situation. If they can be consistent, avalanche is good. Yes, I think they're both good. And the studies just show, like with the avalanche, you do save a little bit more money, but in the grand scheme of things, it's a small amount more compared to what you're doing, so to speak. Okay. But I think it goes back to what I just said, Still Rocks, about people just assume if it's a small amount, they're assuming that it's a small loan, and they're assuming that if it's a high interest rate, it's a big loan. But like I said, it could be a credit card loan that's only $1,000, but you're paying 30% interest on it and everything. All right. Lastly, let's talk about the credit score. There was a couple of things that she pointed out that I did not mention and I did not consider when I was talking about credit. So when it comes to your credit score, she said this: your credit score isn't how well you manage your money, but is how well you manage other people's money. And I was like, that is right. Because they're trying to see what they're going to give you. Like, are they going to let you borrow money? And she literally said, your credit score lets potential lenders know how close or how far away you are from bankruptcy. I was like, when she put it in that perspective, I was like, so that's what they really looking at, like how close or how far you are from bankruptcy. Now, And then your credit, she says your credit involves, and we talked about this, your credit score, the credit report, and the credit bureaus that are involved. And your credit score, it ranges from 300 to 850. And I shared that with y'all too. Y'all, and also, y'all, I got ticked off all over again because I shared with y'all about my story with Dave Ramsey and how he was like, you don't need to have a credit score, and his credit score is 0. And I told you I was trying to get my credit score to 0. My ignorant self should have known that the credit score don't even go to freaking 0. So I got ticked off all over again that I believe this man that I could get my credit score to 0, and it don't even go to 0. The lowest score you can have is 300. So I got mad all over again. But for the FICO score range is from 300 to 850. Y'all know we talked about there is a Vantage, is it Vantage? I don't know. It's something with the V. I want to say it's Vantage score. So, but anyway, 300 to 580 is considered poor, meaning that you're a risky borrower. 580 to 669 is fair. 670 to 739 is good. 740 to 799 is very good. And 800 to 850 means that you are an exceptional borrower. And really quickly, I'm going to talk about the 5 parts of the credit score. So the 5 parts are your payment history, which makes up 35%. We talked about this. Just make on-time payments. If you make on-time payments, you're going to be good. Your credit utilization is 30%. We talked about what that truly means, especially when it comes to credit cards. If you're not sure, go back and check out the credit score videos where we go into a lot of detail about credit utilization and how you can increase your credit score, but through credit utilization. I want to say that is in that's the second credit score video that I did on Tipsy Tuesday, where we go into detail about what you can do and literally cause your credit score to increase in like a matter of 60 days. Your credit history is 15%. And just like I was explaining with Nancy, just remember your credit history is an average of all parts of your credit, or your credit, what you owe or whatever. So if you close down an account, that affects your credit history because it could possibly shorten it. If you open up a new account, that will also affect your credit history because it's a new account. So it's going to shorten up the credit history. So just be mindful of that. Your credit increase, that is when you apply for credit, they're going to look into it and pull your credit score, and that makes up 10% of your credit score. And then the last thing is your credit mix, and that's just seeing, do you have like a mortgage, do you have student loans, do you have credit cards, which are like revolving debt. The mortgage, student loans, car payment, those are more like what they call installment debt. All right. And I will say this because I did not go into this. Any activity within the last 12 months has the biggest impact on your credit score. So just remember that. The next biggest impact is anything between 13 to 24 months. Anything that's over 4 years old, so any activity 4 more years older, it has the least impact on your credit score. So when she suggested that when you're trying to like clean up your credit or get your credit better, focus on those last 2 years when trying to clean it up. And with that, when you're trying to clean it up, just making sure it's accurate, making sure any negative items that should fall off are actually off, because any negative stuff should be off your credit. Most negative items should be off your credit for 7 years. Certain things might still be on there a little bit longer or up to 10, but most things should be off by 7 years. Check the dates, make sure it's actually reflecting like when you opened and closed an account. That is important because it goes back to your credit history. If it's not showing the full length of how long you've had that account, that will affect your credit score. Remember that. Yeah, and just making sure it has like your right name, address, that kind of thing. And if there's something that you need to dispute, you can send them a dispute letter. And once again, in her actual book, there is a template to kind of give you an idea of what a dispute letter would look like. All right, so I just wanted, and the goal credit score for you to have is a 740. All right, so that was all I wanted to share. I know we got some comments, and then I still got to do the drawing, y'all. And actually, let me get to that real quick. I need to do the drawing for the $100 gift card. But let me look at these comments really quick. All right, Still Rock says, so many financial decisions are emotion based. We have to seek out. We do. We gotta check our emotions when it comes to so many things. If we can't take our emotions in our financial decisions, easier said than done. But anywho, people just be overwhelmed. Man, we do. And they say like when it comes to finances, what is it? 20% is like logic, and the other 80% is like emotion. I might not be quoting that exactly right, but it's like, I want to say I am pretty much, but 20% is only like we're actually logically thinking about it. The other 80% is all emotional and what we're feeling. April says, LOL. And Nancy says, that's a good point. I don't know what was a good point, but I'm glad. Sunny Nicole, good to see you. She says, good evening, everyone. And April is just telling her hi, as well as Cynthia. Oh, good evening, Cynthia. She says she'll have to watch the rest on the replay. That is fine. And Candace telling her hi. And Young Speaker, good to see you. It's been a little while. Says, thanks for the student loan info. Very helpful. You are welcome. And Sunny Nicole asks, what's the name of the book? So it is called Get Good with Money by Tiffany Aliche. I am going to put it in the comment section. And she's also Tiffany the Budgetnista. Tiffany Aliche. It's been out for a few years now. But it is a really, really good book. Let me pin it up here. And then also, I just recently got the workbook that accompanies the book. And I want to say the workbook just came out earlier this year. And it does have some helpful questions. I haven't even looked at the questions for today or anything like that. But that is what we have going on. Y'all, I am pulling up, if y'all would just give me just a moment. I am pulling up the thing for me to do the drawing, and I still need to if y'all have any questions, and my phone is about dead. If y'all have any questions, please put them in the chat, because I need to add a couple of more names or a few more names in here for the drawing, and then that I did not get around to doing. So I'm adding those real quick. But if you have any questions, put them in the chat, and I'm going to look at them in just a moment. And thank you to everyone who did enter the drawing and put in their affirmations. Still Rocks, you took me out though with the scripture. I'm all about the scripture, but you literally made me laugh. I was like, look at him out here quoting scripture. But yeah, y'all only got like 2 more names to put in here real quick. I want to make sure everybody gets in. And also, I'm going to mention it again. You must be in the U.S. in order for me to send the gift card to you. I'm going to be sending it to your physical address so that you can have it. Do not ask me for the card number, the barcode. Don't ask me to send it to you through Amazon or give you an Amazon gift card. It is, I'm not doing any of that. And I forgot why it's been a while since I have done a drawing. And now as I'm doing all this stuff, I remember why it's been a while since I did a drawing. All right, so I have everyone's name entered in now. Let me show y'all real quick. Oh, I don't know if y'all can see on the screen there. Let me see. April says, I do love a good workbook. Lord, I forgot how to do this. Hold on. Y'all, it's been a while. I think I just got to tap it. And then Sunny Nicole says, thanks so much. All right, so let's see who our winner is. I'm going to hit it so we can spin. Come on. Guess who won? Y'all won't believe who won. Guess who won the drawing? And Ken, you have won. You have won the $100 gift card. Congratulations to you. So, and Ken, you have my email address. Send me your home address and I will get it sent out to you this week, your $100 gift card. So congratulations to Ann Ken. Look at that. You are lucky all around, girl. I hope you've been doing some writing. This is your lucky week. So congratulations to you. April says congrats. And Ken says yay. And then Nancy Cedar says that's awesome. Congratulations. All right. Okay, guys. So thank y'all so much for joining in. I really appreciate it. I will be back. Oh, I didn't even tell y'all. So next week, y'all, there's too much stuff going on. So the next couple of chapters we'll be covering, and I might combine. I'm thinking about combining. So next up is learning how to learn to earn. Y'all know I love talking about that, like how y'all can make some more money, increasing your income. That's chapter 6. And chapter 7 is invest like an insider. So they're going to be talking about investing. But I think the investment chapter is really, really long. So I might combine, I don't know, because I don't want to go out of order. So I might just devote that to itself. And that's the chapter I really need to focus on when it comes to investing. So I'm probably going to be taking a whole lot of notes when it comes to that one. Y'all already see, I took like, just with this, and this is most of the stuff a lot of the stuff I already know. I took like 4 pages of notes just from this. And those chapters were only like an hour long. So I know I'm going to probably take a whole bunch of notes on the investment chapter, especially since that is where I have the least experience. So, chapter 6 is really short. So if you're reading along, I'm going to say read through chapter 9, but I'm probably only going to cover learn to earn. And if I can tie in chapter 8, I'm going to probably tie that in next week, and then just give a chapter, a whole session to investing. So that we can focus on that. You're welcome, Ann Ken. Hold on, let me look real quick. What's going on? She says thanks. Yeah. And Ann Ken says my affirmation work. Yes, what was your affirmation, Ann Ken? From all of it, I can't even remember. Let me see. Do you remember what it was, Ann Ken? I remember you had said one on the live. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. I know you did it on the YouTube, so hold on. And like I said, y'all had a lot of good affirmations. So Ann Ken said, she said, money comes to me quickly and effortlessly. So you better y'all better say that this week. Money comes to me quickly and effortlessly. All right. So until next time, y'all enjoy the rest of your week and take care. Bye, guys.